So my name's Lucy Marshall. I've recently commenced a role with Department of Premier and Cabinet working on the facilitation of the rollout of our Victorian Government Public Engagement Framework. So from the previous speakers, we certainly see that it's a really exciting time for engagement here in Victoria, and particularly from where Michael and I are sitting at the moment in the Victorian Government. It's a time of change, and we're really seeing, I suppose, some increasing community expectations in the way that we are engaging with them and the different tools and the methodologies that we're using as well. From some of the really great case studies that we've heard of again this morning, we're seeing that there's a greater willingness of decision makers to share some of that decision-making power, which is providing some fantastic opportunities for the practice. The demand for engagement capability, and I'm sure this all resonates with you, it's never been stronger for those skills and for that knowledge to enrich our processes and deliver us better outcomes. And community engagement approaches across departments, across local governments, we all generally have a framework. And that's really exciting. But up until now, and as the fantastic work that Vago did earlier this year, identified that there's no one consistent framework in the Victorian Government, which is obviously leading to inconsistencies, and that's where the piece of work around developing the public engagement framework has come in. So throughout 2017, we've started work to develop a whole of Victorian Government public engagement framework. Seeing as though we're all about engagement, so it's been absolutely critical that we've been doing some really great collaboration across the Victorian Government with the different departments and agencies, and also involving those industry experts as well to kind of test ideas, hear challenges, and share ideas around that. To inform the development of the public engagement framework, we've been undertaking a leading practice review because there's so many great pieces around engagement frameworks there that we can start to, continue to build on, and also share that across other departments and agencies as well. And as we move forward over the coming months, we'll be starting to look at how we can best implement this framework around the different support that we provide, learning and development opportunities, and the tools and resources. So I thought that we'll just share with you some of the key messages that came through with our engagement, particularly with our Victorian Government departments and agencies, around the enablers and also the barriers to delivering really great engagement in organisations. And I'm sure that some of these will be familiar to those of you in the engagement practice or that are involved in engagement processes. So the key enablers, it's around having that understanding in your organisation around engagement strategy and the tools and the techniques, the leadership support and that continuing leadership and support for your process, and to ensure that we're taking those outcomes and delivering, meaningful outcomes and improved decision making as well. Adequate resourcing and time, and a culture that values engagement and its role in making better decisions. So the key barriers, the workforce capability, particularly in a time when we're seeing such a demand for engagement practitioners and skills and knowledge. Inconsistent success and evaluation measures across the industry and projects. Insufficient time, resourcing and the planning. And poor consistency and understanding of engagement terminology. And even this morning, that's been highlighted to me just by already starting to hear some of these definitions that are in our industry in Victoria. So as I mentioned, over the coming months, we'll be starting to plan out the rollout and implementation and continuing to consult and collaborate with our key stakeholders and our target audience being around the Victorian Public Service, looking at how we can provide the best learning and development opportunities, establishing a really strong community of practice so we can start to share our knowledge and leverage off those relationships. resources and tools to drive the consistency of practice, which was one of the key points of the VAGO recommendation as well. And also exploring the opportunities to improve the way that we're using our data that we're gaining from our engagement processes, and starting to do a deeper dive into that and getting better at sharing those insights to a wider decision-making audience. And a key platform of us being able to do that is Engage Victoria. So I'm just going to invite Michael up and he can give you a run-through.
So we have done this because we saw pretty much a shared problem across Victorian government, where people were spending a lot of time, money and energy procuring standalone digital engagement solutions and platforms in order to have a digital pathway for people to provide feedback on a range of projects. So you had departments, you had branches within departments, you had teams within branches that were doing things slightly differently each time and using a different selection of tools, telling the story in a different way, and then collecting and storing and often not being able to share the data that was collected from those processes beyond their teams. So created a business case, went to the Victorian Secretaries Board and said, let's centralise this and create one place where the VPS has access to the tools, to the technology, and to the processes that enable them to get their consultation, their engagement activities up and running quickly and easily and simply in a digital forum. So we have done that, and this is the platform. You'll see how I'll scroll with this. So we have, as with most digital platforms, it's in three distinct parts. Projects that are open for feedback, projects that are being updated, and projects which have run through their life cycle and are closed and archived on the platform. In the first year, we have managed to support the VPS to launch 100 projects. We're exactly on 100 as of a few days ago. There are another 14 projects in planning. We have all but one department using the service to engage digitally, and a handful of agencies as well that are coming on board, independent agencies, to use Engage Vic. So, as you can see, by the dates, things are moving quickly. So, as of today, Victorian Rural Drainage Strategy has gone up. We've got some waste and resource recovery, including some plastic bags, kind of have you say on the kinds of bags that we want to ban, through to EES processes, a lot of the new schools for the Victorian Schools Building Authority. I'll just quickly show you one of the project pages. So some kind of standard templating of the process, clear calls to action about what we want teams to do. I'll stand so you can hear me. A timeline so you can see where you are in a project process. This is how much time you've got. This is what we're going to do with the information that you provide us. This is the following stages of the life cycle. And in this project, we've got a form to ask people how they would like the Frankston North Education Plan to look like. Submission forms are accounting for about 80% of the tool type use, which is understandable, but we are also seeing people using ideation tools, participatory mapping, and we're encouraging, so whoever can be first, to start putting some forums and deliberation tools where people are publicly having the conversation. That will come, I think, as we move through these processes which are towards the end of their life and we come into the new cycle of projects which have a lot of scope in the ideas phase. Just quickly, just further updates. Again, with one of the schools, so Docklands Primary School has just reported back their findings from the first phase of engagement on the school. So they are, you wouldn't say closing the loop, but keeping people in the loop about what they're doing with the first round of feedback that they received and how that's being applied and given to the architects in order to design the artist impressions for the school, and also providing the engagement reports, the summary reports of what was heard. So starting to create some consistency around the way that we report back, and the way that we keep people not only informed, but helping them understand how these processes unfold, and how their input is informing that.